Hello everybody and welcome to another unboxing. We are looking at Silk today and we're a little late. Obviously we are about as late as possible because it's not the release weekend, but I was at Con of Heroes 2025. So here we are. It is time to do an unboxing. I have been waiting this whole time. As you can see, if you can see here, the tape is, well, maybe not. Yeah, as you can see, the tape is still on this. I have not opened this. I also have Shuri, have not opened. I have been keeping this sealed, even though I went to a Marvel Champions event, all for the viewers. So let's get into it. I will unwrap this and we will start to look at every card in Silk's deck, the kit, all the new cards, and the, the Thunderbolt's minion. So let's get into it. This is the unboxing for the new Web Warrior, Silk. I am so excited by this. I'm so excited by just the idea of getting a new Web Warrior. Silk is definitely a character that I was not expecting that we would just see out in the world. And so just being able to like have her as a hero is just so exciting. And I am completely out of focus. I will fix that ASAP. I'm just getting everything kind of spaced out here. All right, that was, okay, that's so much better than trying to manually do this. All right, so here we are talking about Silk. And I read the article, there's a video for that. I paid attention to the spoilers, but I will fully admit, I am just one of those people who I can look at a card and I can look at previews and everything and really feel like I have, I've taken everything in. But it's not until I play with the cards that I normally get a very good sense, which is why I would say that my new player guides are generally stronger than like an unboxing. But so that you know what's in this pack, because we don't cover the aspect cards, let's get into it. We've already burned up quite a bit of time, and I don't know how much of it is going to be in a montage. So we've got Cindy Moon. She is a 3 recovery alter ego with the genius trait. Love that for her. I love having more geniuses in the game. And she has the text of, if there is more than 4 cards tucked here, discard all but 4 of those cards. I know in the preview article, I definitely got that wrong. I was thinking that you discard everything. That's just new card syndrome that's going to happen. God, I love the way the blue looks here. Kudos to the people that put together Con of Heroes. You guys came up with a great playmat with a great color scheme this year. And I'm happy to have it be what you will be looking at for the next year or two. We got completely distracted. I am so jazzed. I'm exhausted from Con of Heroes, but man, oh man, am I jazzed to talk about these cards. I already covered her first ability. Then we got the action of discard a card, tuck here, draw 2 cards, limit once per round, 6 hand size, 10 hit points. So I have an idea of how her cards get tucked. I think that there are probably cards that I'm not immediately thinking about, but I know that her hero does it. I think she's got a 0 cost event. I wrote about that for Card Gamer a couple weeks ago. So I know that there's a card that will push cards underneath her. But in general, I think just the ability to say, obviously we'll get into the context of what these tucked cards do in a second. I think that just in general, being able to say, hey, I have 4 cards under here. One of them I don't really feel like I'm going to use, and we'll get into the context of how you will use them later or their utility later. I would rather just turn this into 2 cards. Having 7 or 8 cards in your hand at a base is just great. And so I think that my gut says that she is going to be a character that is going to be able to probably have a little bit of a higher curve if you're looking for that. Like having a 4 cost card in your deck is not going to be something where you're going to have to dedicate your entire hand, because you should have more economy, so you should be able to reliably pay for it. Obviously, we are in the age of the 6 cost shield supports. I don't want to say that she's going to necessarily use those, but there is signs that she would be able to afford them, and I think that's just great. Let's get into the actual hero. We've got Silk, 1 threat, 2 attack, 3 defense. Web Warrior trait hero. If there are 4 more cards tucked here, discard all but 4 of those cards. Again, so that means, like, hypothetically, we'll use magic cards here. So hypothetically, you've got some cards under here. So you're up to 4. All of a sudden, you get a 5th one. You discard 1 of them. There you go. That's how the ability works. Obviously, like I said, we will get into the context of how you will use those. Oh, these are 2 different decks. shouldn't separate them like that. Okay, we will get into the context of what you're going to use these for. But how do we get them under her? We get them under her through the silk. Oh, also 5 hand size, 10 hit points. I always skip over that because the text of the card is so important. It's so exciting. But then she's got the silk sensibility, which is a response after you defeat a minion or side scheme or resolve a treachery card. Tuck that card under here from the encounter deck pile. So what's definitely going to get in our way here is victory minions, although to be fair, or anything with victory, I suppose. Anything with victory that fits the types that we've got here: minion, side scheme, and treachery. I don't know what treacheries are going into the victory display, but those must be very scary. But if you have a victory card, I believe it never goes to the discard pile, so that's not going to be something you're going to tuck. I would think that because of the way that her cards work, you probably don't want to tuck a victory card anyway, because it would get discarded back into the discard pile and you need to fight them again, and I don't want to do that. Plus, once they're in the discard pile, I should look that up real quick. Can you find a tucked card with the find ability? Let's just look at that real quick, because it's something that kind of streamed consciousness into my head. So, do not go to the victory display. And tuck. Okay, so tuck. Let's face it. It's not in play. At least play. So that's actually a good question, because so it's not in the play area. It's not a set aside area. I suppose it might be a set aside area. I'm gonna just say that the one data point that we have with the Thunderbolt minions, I don't know for certain if that means that, let's just say there was something other than Thunderbolt minions, because they go into the victory display, you're not going to be able to find them there. If there was a hypothetical situation where you had, let's just say that we're playing the mutant, or not the mutant, the mutagen formula scenario, and you have monster. You tucked monster under silk. Let's just say there was hypothetically a card that said go find monster. I don't know if tucked is a place that a card can be found in. I am going to ask the Discord. I will put it on the screen and whatever, and we won't get caught up on this. But either way, I think the fact that you can defeat a minion, a side scheme, or just resolve a treachery, we will get into what kind of cards you want to prioritize, how many of a card you want to prioritize in just a second. But I think that just her silk sense ability in general is so cool. I think it's going to change the way that you interact with scenarios. It's going to change the way that you look at modular encounter sets. Like what has a thing that I don't want to deal with, but has a minion or a side scheme that I could just defeat real quick. Now, the one catch here is she's got 1 thwart, so I think that getting rid of side schemes, it's going to rely on her events, not her actual thwarting ability. Similar to how Valkyrie can really prioritize, she wants to really prioritize taking out minions with her Death Glow. I have to wonder if that means that Silk will also be in a multiplayer setting saying, hey, let me finish off this scheme. Can you put a damage here so I can finish off this minion? Do you have a way to thwart this down so that I can be the last point of threat on this side scheme? Because she's going to want to be very active talking to the rest of the table about what she needs to succeed. And I think that's actually really exciting. And I'll say with both these heroes, Silk and Black Panther, I never saw them in play at Con of Heroes. I think they were new enough. They were readily available. I saw a couple packs that were sitting on the store shelf right near the entrance on Sunday afternoon. So they had plenty of them. I think they probably sold out immediately, but I don't know that for sure. I was too busy trying to get in, and we will get into other things. But either way, I didn't see these two get played, so I don't actually know how they were getting played. This is all anecdotes at this point and not helpful to knowing what's in the pack. So then we've got 2 copies of Smooth as Silk, a 0 cost event. Love it. Hero action, choose an enemy or scheme in play. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a card from the same encounter set as that chosen card is discarded. Tuck the discarded card under Silk. I think this is really cool. This kind of goes back to what I was just saying about how you want to... It's going to change the way that you look at encounter sets and modular encounter sets. Like, what has cards that kind of can fit in both areas. A minion that's in play so that I can grab a side scheme. A side scheme that's in play so that I can grab a minion. I guess even, let's see, it's discard until you hit a card of the same. So you could hit a treachery. You know, you want to avoid Shadow of the Past. Well, I suppose that's a bad example because standard is only treacheries and that's it. Although I guess in enemy or side scheme in play. Yeah, all the standards either are treacheries or obligations, because standard 3 has an obligation. So that's probably a bad example. You're going to want to just get a assault underneath her via her silk sensibility. But once again, going back to the mutagen formula thing, grab a goblin thrall, and that's actually a perfect example. Game opens up, you have a goblin thrall in front of you. You suddenly just discard off the top so that you hit something from mutagen formula, and now you've got a mutagen formula card, and you're ready to do all the other things that we'll be talking about in just a second. I think this is a great card to set everything up. I think in my Spider-Punk video, I talked about the importance of a card like this, one that on the first turn can get your hero doing what they're supposed to be doing. And a card like this is going to be super helpful. I play a lot of Thor, so a situation where you open up the game and on the first turn you're not able to activate that have at the ability to draw those 2 extra cards feels like a dead turn. And a card like this is going to be able to turn on your turns in a way that I think is going to really just improve the way you play the game. A lot to say about a card that I think is actually pretty straightforward and simple, but I think it does a lot to bring Silk together. Then we've got 3 copies of Swinging Silk Kick. And we will just cluster these together. I'm not going to fit all of them on. But Swinging Silk Kick, a 3-cost event, aerial attack superpower, hero action attack, deals 7 damage to an enemy. You may discard a card tucked under Silk from the same encounter set as that enemy. If you do, deal 2 additional damage and gain overkill. What I like about this, and we're going to keep using the mutagen formula example, it's partially on my brain because some of the players in the local Discord were talking about these interactions earlier today. And so that scenario is on my mind. So what's really cool about this is if you use something like Smooth as Silk to take that Goblin Thrall, get a card from the set onto it, then you do this. Yes, you discard the mutagen formula card, but then you've just defeated a minion, which then gets tucked under Silk. I think that's pretty cool. And obviously you've also dealt 9 damage, which through the Goblin Thrall, which off the top of my head, I think it has 2 health. It might have 3. You're overkilling for a subsequent amount of damage, possibly 7, maybe 6 on the low side, right at the villain. First turn, you've done a lot of work, and I think that's really great. And that's a factor that until just looking at it right now, I didn't realize. It was like you use Smooth as Silk to set up Swinging Silk Kick. You swing the Silk Kick, and you just replace the card you just discarded with the enemy that you just defeated. And I think that's really cool. And even if, well, I suppose actually, yeah, regardless, if you're going to do the kicker, you're going to be using the same encounter set. But either way, this is just a way to also, without saying it, tuck a card under Silk. Then we've got 2 copies of Wall Crawl, which is a card that I'm surprised. It's a name of a card that I'm surprised we hadn't had yet. 1-cost event, superpower thwart, hero action, remove 2 threat from a scheme, choose a scheme. So this can be another scheme. You may discard a card tucked under Silk from the same encounter set as that chosen scheme. Remove 3 threat from that chosen scheme. So again, just like Swinging Silk Kick, try to say that 7 times fast. Just like SSK, this is just a way to ditch a card, put the card underneath Silk. I think that, once again, that's really cool. I think that is a part of the design. I guess this is kind of like in that lenticular design thing. A new player will look at this and just be like, oh, this is cool. I can hit 2 side schemes at the same, or I can hit 2 schemes at the same time. A experienced player is going to go, I can take the main scheme down by 2. I can hit this other side scheme for 3, defeat it, tuck it under Silk. That's great. And, you know, in a different world where you're running into different icons, it's like, okay, this can just hit for 5. Hopefully it takes it out. Suddenly you've tucked it under there. Yeah, just over and over again. Great card. I'm excited. Just reading these cards makes me excited to play Silk because she just reads so cool. She reads I'm getting the same vibes that I got from Nick Fury, where it's like, you're going to be able to make very skilled moves, and the better you are at Silk, the better you're going to perform, the more fun you're going to have. And I feel like she's a character that is definitely going to reward experience with her and knowledge of the game and just kind of knowledge of the interactions. And some of this might even go over my head. There might be interactions that I'm not even thinking of, but just looking at them, it makes me feel smarter just noticing some of the things that the designers put in. Then we've got, we got one copy of Get the Scoop, a player side scheme for 0. Comes in with 4 threat on it. Alter Ego action, exhaust your identity, remove 2 threat from here. Any player may trigger this ability. And when defeated, the Candy Moon player, did I even say that her name was Candy Moon? The Candy Moon player looks at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck and tucks one of those under their identity. Once again, super cool. Love that. Love the way that this is just another way to get a card under there. It gets around some of a little bit of the restriction that we have from the previous 2 cards, where you have a really strong incentive to be matching encounter sets. Obviously, you swinging Silk Kick or you wall crawl without that little kicker, you can still tuck a card under here, but this is just a way to drop it. And maybe you're refilling, you've dropped a card to draw 2 cards, then you do this, you replace that card, you have your 4th card again. Either way, 4 is a little high. Once again, she thwarts for only 1. I think you, unfortunately, will not be able to use a card like Wall Crawl for the discard from the same encounter set kind of thing. So you're going to be relying on that too. So actually, looking at this, I feel like this is very aspirational. And I feel like it's not, like, once again, my general philosophy for player side schemes is you're putting them down knowing the plan. The plan is I'm going to have it done this turn. The plan is I'm going to have it next turn. Like, this isn't going to be something that just sits out for the entire game. I know that I'm going to get this resolved as long as all things go correctly. And I think that this is the kind of card that will definitely help you. It's a little deceptive. It doesn't have victory, so you can redo it over and over again. I think that it's a little deceptive just in the fact that I feel like I think it's more powerful than I'm giving it credit for, because I think the ability to look at 2 cards and choose one of them is really good. And it just sort of reads as it's only 2 cards. And maybe that's better than I'm giving it credit for. I don't know. But yeah, that is Get the Scoop. Then we've got her, one of her alter ego supports. She's got 2 of them. We've got Albert Moon, 2-cost support, Persona, alter ego action, exhaust Albert Moon. I think this is her dad. Might be her brother. I don't remember. I don't know Silk's backstory as well. But alter ego action, exhaust Albert Moon. Choose to either tuck the top card of the encounter deck under Cindy Moon, you're doing that blind, or heal 1 damage from Cindy Moon for each card tucked under her. As somebody who definitely saw the power of Bishop's ability to use his armor to just like gain 4 health back after an attack, I think that her being able to hold on to 3 or 4 cards and just flip down, her recovery is 3 out of 10. So this could very well just be a 1-2 punch to heal you right back up. You could just do this so that you can flip down, go to Cindy Moon, exhaust this, get the scoop, use Cindy Moon to remove through the 2 threat from Get the Scoop. You're still recovering. Ready's back up on your turn. You exhaust him 1 more time before you flip over to hero form, and Cindy or Silk is just in a really good spot. I think this is actually a really good card. I think the ability to have that tuck a card or heal up damage, whichever is more important to you, I think that makes this a really stellar card. Next up, we have J. Jonah Jameson, 3-cost support, Persona, traded, hero action, exhaust this card. That's a long name, that makes sense. Search your deck and discard pile for Get the Scoop and put it into play. And then an action, which can be any action, not alter ego, not hero. Exhaust this card, remove 2 threat from a side scheme. Wow, actually, wow. I am not usually big on alter ego action supports or personas, but like both of these cards have me pretty excited. I think they do really cool things, and I think Jameson here, JJJ, I think that he's got a lot going for him. You can go get the Get the Scoop, which combos really well. You can use him to, on the off turn. So you get the Scoop. Maybe you exhaust Cindy Moon. Maybe you just kind of move on with your day. But either way, this can just sit here and in 2 actions just clear it. That's really cool. I like that. I like that little nuance. I like the usability here. Obviously, you've got 2 persona supports, so you might as well have one be a little bit more modular. Yeah, I think great card. I have high hopes for this card. We've got 1 copy of Eidetic Memory. Oh, this is an upgrade. Okay, I thought this was an event. Is this one where you're going to... Oh, this is just exhaust. Okay, I feel like I knew that from writing my article, but I think I forgot that. Okay, so 1 cost upgrade, superpower. When you reveal a card from the same encounter set as a card tucked under your identity. Oh, this isn't even hero interrupt. Dang. Okay, exhaust Eidetic Memory. Swap those cards, reveal the card that was tucked under Silk instead. I feel like it should say tucked under your identity instead, because that is a little confusing, but we all know what we're getting at here. So yeah, this was the card that really kind of like popped off today, because somebody in the Discord was pointing out that like you can use Eidetic Memory to, and I use monster as an example because that's the example that they had. You can just turn monster into a goblin thrall and just put monster under Cindy, and suddenly you're just fighting a goblin thrall. I think that's really cool. And that's like just the tip of the iceberg on what you can do here. Take whatever is dangerous to you and turn it into something that you kind of don't care about. I think that's really cool. That this is an upgrade. It's just exhaust. You don't discard it. This is going to do so much work for you. And I feel like I had identified that before, but the last week has been so intense that I forgot. This is so great. And I've got Organic Webbing, 2 cost upgrade, superpower. Silk gets +1 thwart. Great, that doubles her thwart. Hero action, exhaust Organic Webbing and discard a card tucked under Silk. So another thing to do with it, do with those cards. Ready Silk, gain the aerial trait until the end of the round. So yeah, gaining the aerial trait, I don't think that matters in terms of the cards that she has, but being able to reliably, because you're not discarding Organic Webbing. So yeah, as long as you have cards tucked under you and you're willing to let them go, you can go aerial, do all the things that aerial cards like to do your dive bombs, do your, was that like aerial formation? Something like, no, that is a leadership card. That is an aerial card. But there's another aerial card in aggression that like you can exhaust a aerial character to do 3 damage or something. Either way, I might be overselling this. This might be like a 7 out of 10 card, but it just feels good. It feels like the pieces all interlinked together to give you something. And I think just being able to ready pretty reliably, also great. Then we've got Outwit, 2 cost upgrade, skill, hero interrupt. When Silk makes a basic thwart, exhaust Outwit. For this thwart, she gets +1 thwart for each card tucked under her from the same encounter set as the thwarted scheme. Well, that seems good. That seems like so wait, you're exhausting. When you make a basic thwart, exhaust this. You don't discard any cards. So that would be a little redundant. I would think even if this just is for +2 of your 4, that seems good. I feel like she's going to really struggle against the Hood now that I like stopped to think about all this. She's like, Hood's got a lot of encounter sets. She's probably not going to have a great time there. But other encounters, yeah. So get +1 thwart. So, 2 or 3 thwart. Maybe you've got Organic Webbing, so it's 1 boosted higher. This might be a good way to like get another card under there. You've defeated it. You can tuck it. You can replace a card. What have you. I think the ability to say after the encounter deck has shuffled, drop a card that you're not concerned about, but that you just prefer to not see for the rest of the game. Just put it into the discard pile, and you probably won't even see it again because you'll have to go through the encounter deck again. Not a strategy I would rely on, but it's a strategy that you can keep in mind. Actually, that anecdote had nothing to do with that card because you don't discard any of the cards under it. Either way, well, I suppose you do. If you were to tuck a card, you could discard a 5th card. Either way, that has nothing to do with Spider Claws. A 2 cost upgrade weapon. Ooh, it's the weapon trade. Excellent. Hero interrupt. When Silk makes a basic attack, exhaust Spider Claws. For this attack, she gets +1 attack for each card tucked under her from the same encounter set as the attacked enemy. this attack gains piercing. I think piercing is the most important thing here. Even if they're getting a +1 attack bonus, having piercing is good. I would think that even if you don't have any overlapping encounter set cards, you still gain piercing. I think that would be a thing. Because I don't think there's any problem with getting +0 attack. So yeah, just a reliable way to gain piercing is also just nice. Yeah, I would say that between this and Outwit, I like Spider Claws more. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily better, but I think it reads pretty strong. And last card in her kit is Spider Reflexes. Spider Reflexes, a 2-cost upgrade, a superpower again. Do I think that, what's it called? Deft Focus would be good here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I would say you may want Deft Focus. There are 8 things to pay for with it in her kit. Okay, so back to Spider Reflexes. We kind of already know where this is going. Hero Interrupt, when Silk defends, exhausts Spider Reflexes. For this attack, she gets +1 defense for each card tucked into her from the same encounter set as the attacking enemy. After this attack, tuck the top card of the encounter deck pile. After this attack, tuck the top card of the encounter deck discard pile under Silk. So knowing what the card is actually really important. That I think this is going to be pretty good. I think this is going to be maybe the most useful. Piercing is pretty strong. I think being able to get the same encounter set as the villain and then just have, at that point she has 4 defense against the villain, that seems pretty good. I feel like you're going to survive an awful lot of attacks. And in fact, that might be the meta here. Just get 1 card that matches the villain and you'll have 4 defense. And I would say that in a standard game, you're probably golden. In expert, you might still be taking damage occasionally, but 4 defense is pretty high, and I like that. So that's going to be my called shot is Spider Reflexes, good card, get 1 card from the core scenario, and just enjoy that 4 defense. Moving on to the aspect cards, I'm very excited by this. First up, I know him. I love him. His name is Scarlet Spider, and his name is Ben Reilly. Oh! Yeah, my boy! That's my boy! Oh my gosh, this is awesome! Okay. Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly. Actually, let's just pause this real quick. Yes, okay. So happy I did this now. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we are. This is a Ben Reilly family right here. This is great. Okay. I haven't even read the card yet. I'm so excited by this. 3-cost ally, Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly. 1 thwart, 1 attack. Takes 2 consequential damage for both of them. 5 health. Interrupt when another Web Warrior character would take any amount of damage. Scarlet Spider takes that damage instead. I think that if you have a way to bump up his health even a little bit, 6 or 7 health, I think he's going to be a great shield for you. I would say that the only Web Warrior the natural Web Warrior that jumps out to me as Scarlet Spider's not for him is Spider-Ham, because you can't if there's an attack for 5 coming, you can't just take 4 of that damage. Let Spider-Ham take 1. That said, if that's your one example of where he's not going to be good, I feel like you're fine. I am very excited by this. This puts Ben Reilly on the map. This means that he is a character that we could potentially see at some point. I would much rather see the Indian Spider-Man or Spider-Punk in the game, or Spider-Man 2099. I'm all for those characters making it into the game over Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly is a character that I would absolutely love to see come to this game, and I do think that just in general, he is a very weak attacker and thwarter, obviously, but he's a great shield. If you have a way to just heal him back up, he can be great. I have a lot of faith. I'm gonna be putting him into my protection decks with Web Warriors and just trying him out because I'm very excited by this. I'm just excited to have him in the game. His effect makes sense to me because he is sort of very He is the living meme of that guy riding a bike and sticking the stick into the wheel well and falling over his bike. That screams Ben Reilly to me. Next up, we've got Spider Bite, a 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 2 health. So not loving the stats. I'm okay with the thwart. 2 health for 3 is a little much for me, but I think we're going to fix that. She's a web warrior with the ability of reduce the cost to play Spider Bite by 1 for each tech card you control. So she could very well be a 2/1, 2 0 cost ally, and that's pretty cool. And she's not she's not web warrior restricted. You can put her in any deck. Obviously, she helps in the web warrior deck. Having low health is also good because there are things like the Great Web, or the basic upgrade that just gives your character the Web Warrior trait that's made for Spider-Woman and for Peter Parker, Spider-Man. I think that you get a boost when a Web Warrior leaves play. So yeah, having that low health does have its advantages in a Web Warrior deck. At a base, if you're playing tech, this is actually probably a really good include because she's going to be less expensive. But either way, I think that she's cool. I think that I'm happy to see her because as far as I know, I've only seen her in the second Spider-Verse movie. I imagine she's an existing character that I just don't have knowledge of. But either way, cool look at a Web Warrior. Then we have Not Today, which I'm fairly certain is a reprint. If this is not a reprint, then there is something very similar to it. But I'm almost confident this is a reprint. We'll just put these off to the side. We've got 3 of them. So 1 cost event, defense, hero action defense. When a hero would defend against an attack, it gets +2 defense for that attack. That would be really great with Silk. 5 or 6 defense is pretty cool. If you take no damage from that attack, remove 2 threat from scheme. I'm very, very certain that this is a card that already exists. I'm fine with reprint. That's not a problem. It's cool to have Web Warrior on there because I think, if I'm thinking correctly, I think the card that the original version of this has Ms. Marvel on it. I could be wrong about that. Either way, cool card. It has its place. I certainly believe that it's going to have a role in a baseline Silk deck because, like I said, at that point you're defending for 5. You're probably taking 2 threat off of the scheme, and defense events are just cool. So yeah, play it. We got 3 copies of Stop Hitting Yourself, a 2-cost event. Action. It's an action traded. Attack traded. After you defend against an enemy attack and take no damage, deal damage to that enemy equal to your defense for that attack. Oh, okay, yeah. Definitely use the spider reflexes with Silk to get her defense up to like 4 or 5. Take no damage. Hit the villain for 5. I am fine with that. This is going to be a great card for Ghost Spider. If you happen to have her, this is a hero response, so she's going to defend. I don't remember what her defense is off the top of my head, but make a good defense. And this doesn't boost, which I think is important, but being able to hit back, I think her defense is 3. So being able to defend, hit for 3, ready for backup, that's just great. And then, yeah, I'm just excited to have a card like this. I think this additionally adds to the Change of Fortune archetype. This is at this point, I think that deck is kind of overrun with cards. So I think this is going to be a good card to figure out, like, what do you swap out? What do you have maybe a copy of and 2 copies of this? Either way, I think this is a cool card. I think it's going to be helpful. I think it's going to have a lot of homes. And I'm hoping that I'm right on that because this feels like the kind of card that should have a lot of homes. Then we've got Dr. Sinclair, a 2-cost support persona therapist. I forget about the therapist. This might be the first therapist, but I have a custom card that I should put therapist on. Alter Ego action. Exhaust Dr. Sinclair and spend a mental resource. Heal damage from your alter ego equal to your recovery. You may discard 1 status card from your identity. Any player may trigger this ability. So this is a different version of Night Nurse that's going to kind of fill a similar role. I do think that the alter ego action does change it a little bit, but being able to recover based on your own recovery is pretty good. Being able to take a status off is pretty good. This isn't limited additionally. I believe Night Nurse has uses. This doesn't. This is not the same card as Night Nurse, but it works. It's analog, and I think that it works in a way that it's going to be pretty great to have on hand. Then we've got 3 copies of Energy Shield. And this is the only, I think this might be the only card from this pack that I saw this weekend. Let me just look at what we have remaining. Everything we need to talk about. I feel certain that this is the only card that I saw in the wild at Con of Heroes, and I saw it in a very interesting way. So it is a 0 cost upgrade, item tech, attached to a character, max 1 per character, interrupt when a attached character would take any amount of damage, spend X energy resources, prevent X of that damage. So this is going to be great. Put this onto Scarlet Spider. I think I pointed that out on my reaction video to the article. Put it onto basically anything, really. If you can, playing multiplayer, put this on your buddy's sidekick ally. That's going to be good. Where this came up this weekend, that I thought was great, was in a Protection Cyclops deck, which was really more of a Protection Ally Rogue deck, but that never actually came to fruition. But put this onto the villain, and suddenly Cyclops has a enemy with an upgrade on it to just use all of his stuff for. So great. Additionally, multiplayer setting again. Playing with somebody who's using a lot of cards from the Iceman pack that cares about upgrades onto an enemy. This is an upgrade that costs 0 and that you don't need to use the interrupt on. You can just have it there to put a target on the villain and just get all of the advantages of having an upgrade from that subset of aggression cards. I know that there are probably uses outside of the examples I've even given, but I think that this is a card that is deceptive. It's like it goes back to that lenticular design thing. On the surface, it has a very basic use. When you start to kind of like spiral out, you begin to realize some of the more nuanced things you can do with it. It's an item, it's tech. In a repurposed deck, you're not going to get a bonus, but you could discard this to just ready. I think this is going to be a card that you're going to see in a lot of places, and it might even be a one of that just happens to be the card that makes the difference. I know this was a card that Villain Theory was excited about. I don't particularly remember what it does, though. So we've got 3 copies of Ready for a Fight, 1 cost upgrade preparation, requirement of a physical resource, max 1 per player. Okay, well, you can't share this, but I have a feeling it's a preparation, so it's not going to stick around forever. Interrupt when an enemy would scheme ready, this has a keyword or a buzzword on it. When an enemy would scheme, discard Ready for a Fight. Change to hero form. That enemy attacks you instead. Whew. There's an upper limit to this that is beyond even what I'm necessarily aware of. I see the appeal of this card. I don't know that I'm going to get a lot of use out of it. It's possible that I will get a lot of use out of it. I think just having a protection preparation, I don't feel like there's a lot of those. I feel like that's much more of a justice and leadership kind of thing, but this just screams combo with me, do something with me. The free transform, the free change to hero form is great. We've seen that with Colossus, because Colossus has his armor up or whatever. This is probably going to be a very, very good card. Like I said, I might not get a lot of use out of it, not because it's not good, but just because it might not be my playstyle. But I see the appeal. I definitely see the appeal. And last card of her deck is 3 copies of Stun Gun. That's a 2 cost upgrade tech weapon, and it is restricted. It has 2 uses on it. The hero action of exhaust Stun Gun and remove 1 or 2 charge counters from it. If you removed 1 charge counter, stun an enemy. Stun a minion. If you discarded 2 of them, stun the villain. Okay, I can see a use for this. I feel like this is one that you're going to want to play 3 of, because my gut says that I'm going to want to be stunning the villain as much as possible. Obviously, there are situations where stunning a minion is just as good. The Thunderbolt scenario makes this even better because you're stunning minions that are villainous. And yeah, just overall, this seems like a fair card. I like the idea of seeing more and more tech. We've seen quite a bit of tech here. I think just the tech archetypes are going to like this. The inclusion of the 2 basic ally or the 2 basic supports from Nick Fury's deck furthers what this is going to do. I think this is, once again, I like protection, but I kind of like protection for different things. I don't know that this is a card that I'm going to get a lot of use out of, but I see the appeal, and I do see the avenues for where I would get a use out of this. All right, let's move on to the basic cards. First up, we are looking at Madam Web, Julia Carpenter, 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, Web Warrior with 2 health. In response of after Madam Web enters play, look at the top X cards of the encounter deck, where X is the number of Web Warrior cards you control. Cards, okay. You may discard 1 card looked at this way and put the rest back in any order. That's pretty good. You get into a Web Warrior heavy deck, you're able to look at 3 or 4 cards, maybe to be very modest, of 3 or 4 cards. Picking one of them you don't want to see, and setting the rest of the deck up to be like, okay, so now we know what we're getting ourselves into. This is what we're going to be facing. I'm trying to think. There was an example this weekend where I was like, man, I just wish that I knew what the top card of the deck was, and I'm not sure where that would be. Yeah, I don't remember. There was a point in time when I was like, man, I really wish I could just have somebody tell me what the top card of the encounter deck is so that I could do something. But either way, I think this is pretty cool. 3 is a little much, but the effect might be very powerful, so I'm not going to poo-poo that too much. Seems like a pretty good card in a Web Warrior deck. Because like I said, 3 or 4 Web Warrior cards, because you could have cards that are outside of allies. You could have supports or upgrades or whatever. I think it's being modest to say 3 or 4 as a baseline, because obviously your hero might also be that. But yeah, this might have a lot of untapped potential, and I'm just not giving it enough credit. Then we've got 1 copy of Peter Parker Spider-Man. This is a reprint. 3 costs, 3 health, 2 thwart, 1 attack with only 1 consequential damage on both of those, and a requirement of energy, mental, physical. So pretty restrictive. And a responsibility of after Spider-Man attacks or thwarts, choose another Web Warrior character, ready that character. So this is a reprint. We've already seen its upper capabilities. It has a lot of good uses, especially in a Web Warrior deck. And if you are in leadership, you can get around its requirements by just doing make the call. You can just make the call out of your discard pile, pay 3, you don't have to worry about the requirements. Either way, I think that as a basic card, this is very powerful, and so I don't mind the requirements. Sometimes you just play this by just having everything line up for you, but I think this is a pretty good card. I don't know that it's contextually changed much from when it was first reprinted during Sinister Motives wave. That might have actually been in the box. I don't remember. We got Across the Spider-Verse. 2 cost of... Oh, she doesn't have a identity-specific ally. Peter Parker's kind of that. Alright, so we've got Across the Spider-Verse, a 2-cost event. Once again, it's a reprint, max 1 per deck, but having another copy of it's going to be nice, because I think there's only 1 other version of it in existence. Hero action, exhaust a Web Warrior card you control, search your discard pile for a Web Warrior ally and put it into play. Maybe you want to choose Spider-Man, because he's got these requirements. Put it into play, then choose a player. That player may spend 3 resources of any type to repeat this ability. So in a Web Warrior game, this is great. Now being able to have 2 of these, I feel very certain that there's only 1 other copy of this. So being able to have this be in 2 different decks and just summon out Web Warriors, get back Hobie Brown, great. Happy to have this as a reprint. It is a card that I've gotten a lot of use out of. Not in a while, because we've kind of been... I don't want to say I'm down on the Web Warriors. I just haven't played Web Warrior characters as much as I would have liked to recently. Then we've got 1 copy of Investigative Journalism, 2-cost event, skill, team up for Cindy Moon and Peter Parker, max 1 per deck, and Alter Ego Interrupt. When an enemy would scheme, cancel that activation and confuse that enemy. I think this is a fine card. I'm not certain if the Peter Parker ally that's been reprinted, I have to assume that this is kosher with that, because the name is on there. I think where this isn't kosher is if you're playing the Peter Parker hero and you're in Spider-Man form, I don't think you can use this. But because the ally has Peter Parker written on it. I'm fairly certain that they wouldn't have given us this card if the deck itself couldn't do that. I'm pretty certain. But either way, this is kind of a weird effect, but it is Alter Ego, and it does prevent an activation, and it confuses an enemy. I'm not going to complain too much. This is a cool card with some cool design space. I don't know that this is going to be a card that I'm going to be including too often because it's just kind of weird, to be honest. And then more copies of the different basic resources, Strength, Genius, Energy. Saw them in I think it was in the Maria Hill deck. It was in one of the two Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. decks. Had copies of this. So we just got more copies with this art. That's cool. And at this point, let's do Obligation and Nemesis Kid real quick. So we've got Silk Sense Overload, her obligation, give to the Cindy Moon player. Force Interrupt, when a card would be tucked under your identity by a player card effect, tuck it under here instead. When a card would be tucked under your identity by a player card effect. Oh, tuck it under the obligation. Okay, so I see how this works. Then if there are 2 tucked cards here, you may discard this card, remove it from the game instead if there are 3 or more tucked cards here. Okay, so May ability. So yeah, you can offset this for a little bit using her abilities. You know what I like about this? This does fight what you're trying to do, but it doesn't get in the way where you are just completely sidelined. And it doesn't cause you to go Alter Ego. This is interesting design space. I like that it is playing with what you're doing. It's pushing you to want to get to tucking things. And I mean, I have no problem with that because I want to defeat side schemes. I want to take on treacheries. I want to defeat minions. And I see this as a card that will probably stick around for a turn or two, but shouldn't be too difficult. If you happen to have your event that just tucks a card, this is going to be great. If you happen to have your Albert Moon, again, pretty good. Yeah, I see this as a nice speed bump, but actually the real choice here is, do you want to discard it or do you want to prolong it to remove from the game? And I feel like you want to just wait it out and remove it from the game, but that's your call. You figure it out. Do what you need to do. Yeah, I like this. It doesn't stop you from doing what you're doing entirely. And this could just take all the cards tucked under you and tuck them under here, and you can't discard it until you have 5 cards under here or something. That could be really debilitating, and it's not. I don't know that I've said so much about an obligation before. We've got her minion. Oh God, how is this pronounced? I forget. Morlun, I think it's how it's pronounced. This, I don't think I looked at their Nemesis kit. Sorry, Critical Encounters. I don't think I watched the spoiler for this. A minion with 1 scheme, 1 attack, 5 health. The elite and inheritor traits with a star of Merlun. I'm never going to get this right. And I just won't say it out loud. I'll be really spiteful and won't say it out loud. This minion gets +1 thwart, +1 attack for each encounter card tucked under each identity. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, wait. So obviously they're leaving open the design space that you will be tucking cards at some other point in the history of the game. Maybe the redesigned Peter Parker will tuck cards for all we know. But just in general... Oh boy. Okay, so this is a card I'd want to use Informant, probably. Probably, because he could potentially be a 5/5 and a 5/5/5, and yeah. Oh my God, that's okay. That's potent. Let's look at. Oh, sorry, and we didn't even get to that, but we'll put this here as an example. Okay, so when defeated, discard each copy of Hunting the Spider Bride tucked under each identity. Oh, okay. So I get a feeling that whatever whatever Hunting the Spider Bride is, it's gonna be important. Discard each copy. Okay, so we'll get to that in just a second. I slightly looked at the text here and assumed that it was referencing the side scheme, and it's not. So the side scheme is the Great Hunt. It's a side scheme with 2 threat. When revealed, place 1 additional threat here for each card tucked under each identity. And it has the crisis icon. Okay. I'm not too worried about this. She doesn't thwart well, which I guess is a thing, but I'm not too worried about this. I'm potentially more worried about the minion, to be honest. And okay, we got 3 copies of Hunting the Spider Bride. So it is a treachery with Surge. Okay. When revealed, if you have 4 cards tucked under your identity, discard one of those cards at random, tuck this card under your identity. So you can just get rid of this with Silk by tucking another card under yourself. Okay, force response. After a player effect discards this card from under that identity takes 2 damage. Oh, see, man, they got in front of me. Okay, so when revealed, if you have 4 more cards tucked under you, discard one. Okay, so for a second I was like, how does a non-Silk character get this? But okay. These are 2 separate sentences. If there are 4 more cards tucked under you, discard one of those cards at random. Okay. Stop. Next sentence, tuck this card under your identity. So just basically anybody that draws this is going to get it tucked under them. That's going to make the minion better. That's going to make the side scheme a little scarier. No, that's not. Well, the side scheme. If you cycle the deck and the side scheme comes back. And the threat here is that if you... Oh. Okay, so that's another layer to this. You defeat the minion, Hunting the Spider Bride goes away, you take 2 damage. Okay. This is a really cool Nemesis kit. I like the way that these cards all bleed together. Yeah, that's actually really cool. There's nuances to that. I like that. All right, so that is the Nemesis kit and the obligation. Let's really quickly go. This just goes on and on and on. I'm so happy I'm splitting these into 2 videos because we are already almost an hour in. So let's do the back of the pack. We've got Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. He's a 4-cost ally, 2 threat, 2 attack, 3 health, aerial web warrior with the response of after Spider-Man 2099 uses a basic power, return a web warrior ally to your hand. Return a web warrior ally in play to its owner's hand. Oh, that's good because that web warriors care about leaving play. They don't necessarily care about being defeated. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And you could choose yourself, return a web warrior, or it could return itself. So after you use a basic power, so you could hit for 2, return this to your hand before consequential damage, and then you could play him back out. 4 is a little expensive, but I think that comes with the fact that this seems really good. This seems really powerful, and I'm happy to have it in the game. This is pretty cool. Kind of already knew that, but I'll fully admit that, like I said, I've watched the previews. I didn't internalize all of them. Oh, let's get this out real quick. There's another copy of Investigative Journalism, so you can give it to your Spider-Man or your Peter Parker friend. Then we've got Spider-Woman, a 3-cost ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health with the shield and web warrior trait. Response after a web warrior ally enters play, including this one, deal 1 damage to an enemy. This seems like a cool card. This seems like an ally that it's actually a upgrade or support. Not much more to say about it. I do like the fact that we now have a web warrior in aggression and leadership. There is one thing that I have a little bit of a soapbox about with this card. This says Jessica Drew. That is fair. That is the name of the character. The one issue with this that I have is this is not the same as the Jessica Drew that comes in the Rise of Red Skull. This is from the Ultimate Universe. This is a clone of Peter Parker that is female. I don't think we're going to run into a situation where Jessica Drew, the hero, is going to want to play this card, but she does have the shield trait, and I do think that Jessica Drew has the shield trait. So there is a little bit of an overlap there. This is in universe, and granted, the Marvel Champions universe is a different canon or whatever, but in the comic book canon, this is a distinctly different character from Jessica Drew. And I sort of wish that there was some way to just kind of keep the thematics of this clear. Regardless, this is a cool card. The theme I can get over. The actual Melvin part of this, the function of the card. Let's get past the Vorthos. Let's move to the Melvin. Cool card. I love it. I love the function of it. I love that it's going to combo with a card like Spider-Man 2099. You get a 2-player game. You got this out, you got this out. You're returning Web Warriors to their owner's hand. They're coming back out. Jessica Drew is dealing damage. I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. Lastly, from the back of the pack, we are looking at 3 copies of Quick Quip, a 2-cost event skill with a requirement of a mental resource. Hero action, deal 1 damage to a Web Warrior character you control. Place a total of 2 confused status cards on up to 2 enemies. Okay, so this is a way to get around steady. You can do this, deal a damage to confuse a steady enemy and get right to it. Yeah, I think this is the kind of card that in a Miles deck is going to be great, and get his abilities turned on, in that way. Overall, I certainly think that there are some setbacks here, but I don't see a lot wrong with this. I think this is going to have its place. It's not going to be in every deck, but it's going to have its place somewhere. And making the grand circle, getting around to everything. It's in the pack. I normally wouldn't talk about this because it's kind of an encounter thing, but it's in the pack. And I love the Thunderbolts, so let's talk about another elite minion that's coming to the game. This means that we have another gameplay video with the Thunderbolts that we're going to be able to do because we got Black Panther that's going to give us another one. Let's talk about Atlas. He is a minion with 0 scheme, 3 attack, 18 health, elite Thunderbolt traded, villainous, and victory 1. And the star ability of Atlas gets +2 health for each growth counter on him. How does he get growth counters, you ask? To myself. First response. After the villain phase ends, place 1 growth counter on Atlas. I'm going to say, now that I understand the full context of the Thunderbolt scenario, this scares the bejesus out of me. Oh my god, okay. So you're going to... He's either in play, or he's tucked under the environment, and maybe you dealt 6 damage to him. He gets tucked under that environment. He takes back 1 per player health. Then he gets a growth counter. In that context, this is a scary card. In a regular game, I feel like he's going to be a formidable enemy to fight, but he's not going to be the end of the world. He's just sort of scary. But I don't think, not having the full context when this came out during my reaction video, I did not understand just how scary he's going to be. Oh boy. Okay. Then we've got his side scheme. Grow Invulnerable. A side scheme that starts at 5 threat, and when revealed, place 1 additional threat here for each growth counter on Atlas. And, I suppose, okay, this isn't a Nemesis kit, so I was thinking this came into play immediately. It does not. So, that might actually be a thing to worry about. If Atlas has 10 or more growth counters on him, the players lose the game, and you have to deal with this before you can deal with the main scheme. So I do think this hits you on 2 fronts, because it's going to have it can have a lot of threat on it. And even if you were to then follow it up by defeating Atlas, it's still going to have a lot of threat on it, which you need to address before it gets out of hand. I guess the nice thing here is that this doesn't have it could have 10 threat on it, but this isn't going to have 20 threat on it, because if it did, then you would just lose the game in multiple ways. But I guess I'm not worried about the icon on this. I am worried about this as an alternate lose condition, which I can appreciate an alternate lose condition. I think that if this gets up to 10, you've already had a lot of problems. Although if this comes out, let's say this was in the first round, we're playing the Thunderbolt scenario, so Atlas is going to be going in and out of play and everything. Well, he never leaves play, but he's going to go in and out of engage with a player. And this happens to be one of the first cards that you have in the scenario. That puts getting rid of Atlas as a top priority. That said, I will also conclude that I don't know that a lot of games of Marvel Champions actually go on for 10 turns. I think they go on for a long time in terms of minutes, but in terms of actual turns, in terms of rounds, I think that they top out at 8 to 10. I feel pretty confident saying that when this comes out, basically you have to defeat Atlas before he has 10, because this could come out at any moment and just make you lose the game. But once this comes out, you kind of have a clock of, well, now we need to shift our priorities to get rid of Atlas. Either we need to win the game or we need to defeat Atlas. And that seems all fair. This seems like, once again, I love an alternate loss condition. It makes for a fun time. This one seems very approachable, and I think you just need to be smart about how you handle Atlas, and this should be fine. Oh, okay, sorry. We got 2 copies of Growing Strong, a treachery with when revealed. Find Atlas and reveal him. If he's already in play and key engages you, Atlas activates against you. If no enemy activated this way, so if he was in the victory display, this card gains Surge, and the boost ability of give the activating enemy a tough status card. I suppose that could also be, you could get the boost off of the villainous off of Atlas. Okay. Yeah, this seems fine. And having seen this now in play in the Thunderbolt scenario, this is just a card you expect to see. It can definitely mess with you. Yeah, it certainly can mess with you in ways that are just unfortunate. But either way, yeah, like this isn't the end of the world. I think the boost ability is all plain fair. Yeah, this is pretty good. And the last cards to talk about in this marathon of a video, we have Titanic Proportions, a treachery with when revealed, the players as a group take X indirect damage, where X is the number of growth counters on Atlas. If X is less than 3, this card gains Surge. Okay, so if he's in the victory display, there's that. If he just doesn't have a lot of growth counters on him, this gains Surge. I think that's all fair. Boost ability, if Atlas is in play, place 1 growth counter on him. Okay, so that's going to mess with your timing. But once again, like I said, in terms of his side scheme, obviously this is put 2 health on to Atlas. But in terms of his side scheme, this changes the math. You might only have 8 turns, because if both these come out and then the side scheme comes out, you just lose the game. Once again, I think that's all fair. I think that in terms of just a modular encounter set, all for this is really cool. I'm happy to have more Thunderbolts. I think the Thunderbolts this scenario is one of the best we've had in years, and so this only improves it. I love what they did there. Do more of this Fantasy Flight. If you happen to have made it more than an hour into a video, please do more Thunderbolt-esque stuff. But that is it. That is Silk. I'm actually really excited. I think she's got a lot of potential to her. I think her kit is really strong. I think she brings a lot of interesting cards to the game. I think the best part about the cards she brings to the game is she brings cards that are appealing to many different people. There are cards that I see here I don't necessarily love, but I bet there are going to be players that do. And we will see you all in 2 days on Thursday when we release the Black Panther box opening. Can't wait to do it. I love Silk, so I wanted to do her first, and I'm very excited. But until then, thank you for your time. Have a great day. And remember, you're doing great. Keep it up.